in connection with brutal murders of 3 teenagers last fall here in nearby Brentwood. Their names are 15-year-old Nisa Mickens, 16-year-old Kayla Cuevas, and 18-year-old Jose Pena. The superseding indictment also adds additional violent crimes in aid of racketeering, including an October 2015 assault with dangerous weapons of a male and female victim. It also adds a conspiracy to distribute marijuana. And with this superseding indictment, a total of 13 MS-13 gang members are charged with a total of 7 murders, including the 3 murders that I just described for you. Now, the underlying indictment in this racketeering case was filed last year and charged 4 murders committed by 7 members of MS-13 in 2013, 2014, and 2015. The superseding indictment also adds racketeering and racketeering conspiracy charges against previously charged defendants Johnny Contreras, also known as Muerte, Reaper, and Conejo, Reynaldo Lopez Alvarado, also known as Mente, and Elmer Alexander Lopez, also known as Smiley, Little Smiley, and Alex. Each of those individuals have previously appeared in court and were ordered detained pending trial. Now, if convicted of these federal murder charges, the defendants face life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. Now, while violence and brutality are trademarks of the MS-13 gang, the murders of these 3 teens are particularly disturbing. In September of last year, both Nisa Mickens and Kayla Cuevas were beaten to death by MS-13 gang members swinging baseball bats and a machete. And 1 month later, Jose Pena's skeletonized remains were found in a wooded area that served as a burial ground for MS-13 victims. His bones bore the marks of repeated stab wounds and beatings with a bat or a blunt force instrument. And law enforcement was determined that these brutal murders wouldn't turn into cold cases. And indeed, because of the relentless investigative work of the prosecutors from my office and the FBI's Long Island Gang Task Force, which is comprised of FBI special agents and dedicated members of local law enforcement, local and state law enforcement all across Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk counties, they worked hard and tirelessly to identify the alleged perpetrators and did this in an amazing amount of time, some 5 months. And early this morning, members of the Long Island Gang Task Force arrested 5 defendants, and they will be arraigned this afternoon in this courthouse by United States District Court Judge Joe Bianco. Now, for far too long on Long Island, MS-13 has been meting out its own version of the death penalty against members of their gang who violate their so-called rules, against rival gang members they seek to eliminate over disputes, and anyone else who they decide that they want to seek revenge against for any reason they so choose. Jose Pena, Kayla Cuevas, and Nika Mickens all attended Brentwood High School, and all should have had long lives to live ahead of them. However, as detailed in our detention memo, members of the Freeport local Salvatruchas clique of MS-13 decided to kill Jose Pena, also a member of that same clique of the MS-13, and their reasons for that were twofold. One, they suspected he was cooperating with law enforcement. And next, they believed that he had violated other MS-13 rules, and for them, all of those transgressions were punishable by death. And on June 3rd of last year, the defendants Elmer Alexander Lopez, also known as Smiley, and other members of the clique allegedly lured Mr. Pena into a car and drove him to a wooded area that they used as a hangout near the old Pilgrim State Psychiatric Facility. And at that moment, Pena thought he was surrounded by friends, but these friends turned on him and attacked him, taking turns repeatedly stabbing and slashing him with knives, and then left his lifeless body to decompose. Kayla Cuevas was marked for death because she had feuded at school and over social media with various members of MS-13. And Miss Mickens was simply at the wrong place at the wrong time on September 13th of last year. She was simply hanging out with a childhood friend. These two girls were walking together on Staley Street, right nearby here in Brentwood, at about 8:30 p.m. after leaving Kayla Cuevas' home. And the defendants, Selvin Chavez, aka Flash, Enrique Portillo, also known as Turkey, and two juvenile members of the MS-13 were cruising in a car looking for rival gang members to assault and possibly kill when they spotted Cuevas and they recognized her. These members of MS-13's Sailor Locus Salvatruch's West Side clique, or the Sailors, called their alleged leader Alexei Saenz, also known as Blasty, and his brother Jairo Saenz, also known as Funny, and the two allegedly gave their underlings the go-ahead to kill the girls. Kayla Cuevas, because of the earlier dispute that she had had with MS-13 members, and Nisa Mickens, because she was there and she was a witness. Now, Nisa Mickens never had a chance. She was attacked in the street by these defendants with a bat and a machete and beaten to death about her head and body. She suffered such devastating blunt force trauma and sharp force trauma to her face and her upper body that she was almost unrecognizable. Kayla Cuevas, she ran for her life, but she didn't have much of a chance either, because she ended up in a fenced-in backyard behind a house where she was beaten about the face and body with baseball bats and a machete as well, and left there to die. Now, their brutal murders last September, compounded by the discovery of 3 sets of skeletal remains, including those of Jose Pena's remains 1 month later, caused shock, horror, and fear, not only in the Brentwood community where these crimes occurred, but all over Long Island and even nationally. Federal and local law enforcement responded, and as always, as we do and we must do, by working collaboratively and tirelessly to bring justice to these people who strike at the very heart and fabric of the lives that we try to live here in this country and on this island. Now, it's our sincere hope that these arrests will send a message to all the communities on Long Island, many of which are populated by hardworking and law-abiding people from all walks of life, that we in law enforcement stand by you and will continue to protect and serve you and do the best that we can to save you or to take these dangerous predators off the street. Now, our work here is clearly not done, and our investigation continues. However, I can assure you that law enforcement will continue to be relentless in our efforts to stamp out this scourge that has been created by these gangs. Finally, I'd like to extend my deepest appreciation and congratulations to the men and women of the FBI's Long Island Gang Task Force, which is composed of the FBI, the Suffolk County Police Department, the Nassau County Police Department, the New York State Police, Nassau County Sheriff's Department, the Suffolk County Probation Department, the Village of Hempstead Police Department, and the Rockville Center Police Department, and of course, the dedicated prosecutors of my office for a job well done. And again, those gentlemen's names are John Durham, Raymond Tierney, and Paul Scotti. I'd now like to turn the podium over to FBI Assistant Director in Charge, William Sweeney.
Sure. Good afternoon. 8 MS-13 members were charged today for their alleged roles in the deaths of Nisa Mickens, Kayla Cuevas, and Jose Pena. With little or no regard for the lives of these young victims, the motivation of today's defendants exceeded the bounds of heartlessness and insensitivity. As a parent, I cannot imagine losing a family member, and my heartfelt condolences go out to the families that lost these young victims. Gangs viciously defend their territories and ideals, aligning themselves to engage in acts of violence against rivals, outsiders, and non-members. They retaliate against anyone who dares to close in on their territory, a territory that's often imagined and self-defined. But when retribution takes the form of an assault or murder, it calls into question the well-being of an entire community forced to live in fear. Targeting gangs and the violence they bring to our neighborhoods remains a top priority for the FBI. FBI Safe Streets and Gang Task Forces were established 25 years ago. There are at least 160 of these task forces operating around the country. Combined, our reach is extensive. Nearly 850 FBI agents, 1,500 state and local law enforcement professionals and officers, and over 100 other federal law enforcement agencies work side by side every day. Since 2003, the FBI's Long Island Gang Task Force has been dedicated to protecting the right to live in a society free from violence. This community's task force here fuses the best of the best. Detectives, investigators, and troopers who know their communities and streets and sources, and who can bring charges, local charges, swiftly when needed. FBI agents who specialize in targeting networks and gang leadership structures, utilizing sophisticated techniques. Other federal partners who each bring their own expertise, all working side by side with prosecutors who will use their skill sets to ensure subjects are ultimately held accountable for their actions. The task force model that you see here today allows us to bring all essential stakeholders under one roof without duplication of effort to address the most violent crimes affecting our neighborhoods and communities. Whether you live in the Brentwood or the Hamptons, you have a right to safety and security in your community. Our message to violent offenders is clear. This task force has a global reach. We will use every tool at our disposal to keep our community safe and hold you accountable for your actions. The task force represented here today is here to stay. Many thanks as always to our partners in this and so many other investigations, to Rob Capers behind me, the assistants, John Durham, Ray Tierney, and Paul Scotti. Thank you to all the members of the task force and to the leadership that's represented here with me today for dedicating your personnel to this mission, especially Commissioners Sini and Crumpter from Suffolk and Nassau counties. I'd also like to thank my agents that worked on this investigation and congratulate them. Ed Heslin, who's not here, Sean McMullen, and Jerry Hart, Geraldine Hart, supervises and leads the task force. She's standing in the back in the shadows, but your work throughout this area makes a difference to this community, so thank you.
I'd next like to call up Suffolk Police Commissioner Tim Sini.
I have to lower this, Rob.
I knew you knew where the button was.
I was eyeing it the whole time. The day Nisa Mickens and Kayla Cuevas were heinously murdered, the Suffolk County Police Department made a commitment to the families and the residents of Brentwood. And today, in collaboration with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, we delivered on our promise. September 13, 2016 was a dark day for many of us. But for the family members of Nisa and Kayla, it was an unspeakable nightmare. It was clear to us at the Suffolk County Police Department that the event was one which would rattle the soul of a community, which is why we immediately reached out to the community to assure them that the Suffolk County Police Department stood with them. We stood with them in solidarity, and we would deliver them justice. During the following days and weeks, I saw the community's trauma and grief as it spread throughout the Brentwood community, through every street, every school, business, and family in Brentwood. But I also saw the strength and resilience in the Brentwood community as they mourned the tragic loss of Nisa and Kayla, and they came together as one to make Brentwood a safer place to live, work, and raise a family. It's been a humbling experience for all of us at the Suffolk County Police Department to stand side by side with the residents of Brentwood and work with them to move their wonderful neighborhood in a positive direction after this unimaginable loss. On behalf of all 2,500 men and women of the Suffolk County Police Department, I want to say to the people of Brentwood, we would not be here today but for your strength, unity, and commitment to justice. My message to the people of Brentwood and all of Suffolk County is that although we are keenly aware that nothing will ever undo the heartbreaking loss of Nisa and Kayla, we can take solace in the fact that their savage murderers will be accountable. The Brentwood family has spent the last 6 months in mourning, but today marks the beginning of the healing process for this beautiful and resilient community. Before arriving here today, I met with the parents of both Nisa and Kayla, and they asked that I convey their gratitude to the Suffolk County Police Department, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the FBI, and all others who were involved in bringing this case home. Nisa's mother said that she didn't want to cry today because she's been crying for 6 months, and today she was going to enjoy what justice felt like. The Suffolk County Police Department has fulfilled one commitment today, but another still remains. We have promised to eradicate MS-13 from our streets, and we remain fully committed to finishing the job. We will continue to keep the pressure on this ruthless gang and anyone who associates with them, and we will spare no resource to accomplish that objective. As I've said time and time again, we've developed a winning strategy that we are implementing each and every day, and we will not let up until the job is done. That involves gathering an enormous amount of criminal intelligence and creating strategic subject lists, having gang officers on the street and members of our firearm suppression team target those individuals on the street. Since we rolled out our initiative in September of 2016, the Suffolk County Police Department has arrested more than 125 known MS-13 gang members, all while working with our federal law enforcement partners, in particular the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York and the FBI, to prosecute individuals under the RICO statute. I want to thank every member of the Suffolk County Police Department for their steadfast determination, commitment, and professionalism on this investigation, whether it was in connection specifically with this case or the general mission in Brentwood. Since these murders occurred, so many officers have helped us achieve historic low crime rates in Brentwood and the solving of these heinous crimes. From every member of the 3rd Precinct, our patrol officers, our gang unit, our community support unit, our precinct crime section, our special duty chart officers, our canine officers, emergency service officers, aviation, homicide detectives, squad detectives, and of course our detectives on the FBI task force, even including the newest members of our department, the recruits in our academy. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This police department is committed to eradicating gangs from our streets. Much work remains to be done. We are in this for the long haul, and we will spare no resource in accomplishing our mission. I want to extend a special thank you to our partners in the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office for their outstanding work on this case, with particular thanks to the United States Attorney, Robert Capers, and his Assistant United States Attorney, John Dorham. John, you're an absolute beast. We appreciate all the work that you do in connection with the Suffolk County Police Department against some of the most violent gangs in this country. The collaboration between the Suffolk County Police Department, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office is a true partnership, one that's never been better, and today is an example of how incredibly effective we can be when we all work together. I also want to thank the Division of Criminal Justice Services for grant money that they provided to the Suffolk County Police Department that allowed us to enhance patrols and to target hot spots. Finally, a message to the Brentwood community and the greater Suffolk County community. The Suffolk County Police Department is not a nameless organization. Just like the residents, we are tasked to protect and to serve. We are part of this community too. We are your friends. We are your neighbors. We are people who care deeply about the place we all call home, and we're the ones who will do whatever it takes to protect this home. When one of our communities hurts, we hurt. When one of our neighborhoods is faced with evil, we will fight it. And no matter where injustice takes place in Suffolk County, the Suffolk County Police Department will stop at nothing to hold those responsible accountable. Thank you.
I'd next like to call up Nassau County Commissioner Thomas Crumpter. I'll raise that up for you a little bit.
I didn't know what the button was. Yeah, we stand here today and announce the unsealing of indictment and the arrest of 8 criminals that really have committed truly heinous acts here in Suffolk County. And what everybody should see is that the Nassau County Police Department is going to stand with our partners in the Suffolk County Police Department, and we will not tolerate these heinous acts on Long Island. I do want to just take a moment and thank the United States Attorney Robert Capers for his leadership, as well as the Assistant Director Thomas Sweeney. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Special Agent Jerry Hart. Their leadership is truly formidable, but it's all of the group here working together to ensure that these types of acts will not be tolerated. In Nassau County, we do use a multi-tier approach. Everything from gang suppression at a street level to investigators assigned to the Gang Investigation Squad. But the collaboration that you see here today can take down any gang that's out there. Nassau County won't tolerate it, and we'll stand with Suffolk County, and we'll stand with the U.S. Attorney's Office and provide any and all resources necessary to address these gangs. Thank you.
Are there any questions, folks?
Can you detail, please, the immigration status of these suspects, and are any of the suspects named in this indictment considered to be unaccompanied minors who came through into the United States in the last couple of years?
Well, I can't speak to whether they are unaccompanied minors. I can tell you this indictment that has 13 defendants, that 10 of those defendants are illegal aliens who are not lawfully in the United States. 2 are United States citizens, and 1 is a green card holder.
Has ICE requested these suspects in the past or recently?
I'm not in a position to answer that question.
Has any other immigrants came forward to turn these guys in?
Well, we can't get into specifics. Listen, law enforcement takes a multi-tiered approach. They investigate, they develop evidence. There are sources of information that become known to law enforcement, and we kind of bring all of that together to develop evidence in which we can indict and successfully prosecute these folks. Yes, ma'am.